rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, pretty much everywhere but here in the U.S. is cold. East Coast is getting snow. We're getting nothing but rain. And by East Coast, I mean probably like at least down to Virginia. I've been seeing, Virginia. I don't know about North Carolina, but at least Virginia is getting snow. I do know that much. Anyway, well, it is the season. That's right. It is the season. Okay. Well, we are, well, I mean, yeah, this, come on. If you know, you know. Seriously. Bonnie was like, no, Rick, you have snow. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I have snow in my imaginary head. Because unlike many of my listeners, my loyal P1 listeners, I actually enjoy the snow. I like the snow. I like it when it's cold. Anyway. All right. Enough about the weather. Let's move on. Okay, let's get back into the shizzle. Wow, I even said that. Yes, it is cyber snow. So tonight we have the top of the order. We're back at the top of the order, and that means that Amy is up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand. Remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Amy as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And, of course, I do thank you for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. We have 20 that are currently active. I need 21. So if you haven't done it yet, and you're not afraid to do so, please go ahead and do it. And then all you need to do is send it in to me. Again, send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And if you do it on your phone, you can use the share option to do the same thing. Go to share, and then you'll be able to send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. All right. Well, just in time for the winter, our headline sponsor tonight put up their patriotic winter favorites. That's right. theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who are thinking about the Pledge of Allegiance, 3 Chevy says, do it, even if you are afraid. Yeah, I won't say who, but somebody had to get a little liquid courage in them before they could do it. But that's okay. That's good. We're good. I mean, this used to be the Whiskey Musings program, so, liquid courage is always good here. All right. Where was I? Oh, yes, theflagshirt.com. They have their patriotic winter favorites now up to shop. You can see they've got fantastic styles in the red, white, and blue, as well as warm zip-up vests and things of that nature. So head on over to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their styles. Men's, women's, made in the USA, kids, all their accessories in the wonderful red, white, and blue. Do it today. They're also gearing up for America's 250th birthday. That's coming up next year. 2026 is 250 years. So they're gearing up for that as well. But head on over to theflagshirt.com, and if you purchase $75 or more, why does that thing always do this? I look up and I see my closed captioning. It's The Flag Shirt. There we go. Theflagshirt.com. Yeah. if I don't enunciate that T just right, it'll say ship. It's theflagshirt.com. There we go. Anyway, if you head on over and buy $75 or more of their gear, they will give you free shipping. Of course, you know, that's always wonderful. They always do that. But I know that not everybody can order $75 or more of the product. So I'm going to help you out. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will be presented with a coupon code. You can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, and you'll get $5 off your order. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. You'll get that coupon code to copy and paste into the promo code box at theflagshirt.com. Now, see, it's doing it right now. All right. So head on over to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. Funny things, the things that I have to do to make things work around here. Oh, my gosh. Okay, well, now, apparently, the Dems, especially those idiots in Congress, they're all now calling for the release of the video footage. They want to put it into the public of the video footage of the drug boat that had on September 2nd that apparently had 2 people survive, quote unquote. And some of the Congress people, like Tom Cotton, are basically saying, no, this wasn't what you think it is. And yet they are all calling, or they're trying to call for it to be presented, or for things to be presented for everybody. But as far as the video goes, but once again, the Democrats are working on essentially a 80-20 thing. They're working on an 80-20 thing, yes, because there's a poll that came out from the Reagan National Defense Survey. The Reagan National Defense Survey. And it conducted a survey with roughly 2,500 adults. And it's designed to gauge national sentiment on security, military, and geopolitics. Well, the findings show that 62% approve of using the military to confront possible drug traffickers in the Latin America and the Caribbean. This comes as the United States maintains a robust naval posture and growing air campaign in the region. So, once again, 62% on this poll of roughly 2,500 adults say they approve of using the military to confront drug traffickers. So, yeah. Now, what's interesting is that because the survey was done while operations in that region are intensifying, the poll actually captured a moment of heightened willingness to use force when national interests are at stake. Now, the survey also notes that partisanship remains a driver on many issues, even as support for NATO and for defending Ukraine and Taiwan rise. So the 9 strikes reported by the end of the period, followed by 15 by the time the period closed, illustrate a reality that Americans are responding to with patience and resolve. Since then, 6 more strikes have occurred, bringing the tally to 83 fatalities tied to those operations. So, yeah. And by the way, the Reagan survey also asks Americans to rate their confidence in public institutions. And the U.S. military received the highest marks, with 82% expressing at least some confidence in the military. That benchmark stands in contrast to mixed views on other topics and reflects a long-standing trust in the men and women who serve. Well, I know I trust the military for the most part. I don't trust idiots like Mark Kelly, who used to be military. I don't trust a lot of veterans who are like veterans against Trump. I don't trust those people because they've forgotten what their oath actually is all about. So, yeah. Anyway. Oh, and Nana, you are correct. 83 narco-terrorists eliminated. That's what's happened. Anyway. So, yeah, once again, the left is on the wrong side of what's known as an 80-20 issue, which pretty much means that public sentiment goes toward the 80% side, the 80-20 issue. That's what they mean whenever you hear them talking about that. All right. So, one question, we're going to shift gears here, head into Minnesota. One question that is coming out, I like how Mark Levin says it. That's why I copy him. Anyway. One question that has come out of all of this wonderful stuff that has been happening here recently, and by wonderful, I'm putting that in air quotes and being very sarcastic with that, is whether or not there's going to be some heads rolling or if there's going to be some sort of political fallout. For an example, Ilhan Omar went on, the weekend shows, and she was saying, well, people need to understand that the Somalis that were the ones that perpetrated it, not all of them, keep in mind, I'm trying to be real here. There were some Somalis that perpetrated all of this fraud in the upwards of somewhere between $1 to $8 billion. They don't even know how much because they haven't even finished investigating yet. But all of that being said, you got to wonder if there's going to be some sort of political fallout. Now, Ilhan Omar went on all the Sunday shows, or, well, at least one, and was saying, well, you need to understand Somalis were the victims too. Okay, for those of you that are not aware, people from Somalia just steal from the government over there no matter what. That's part of their culture. And so, again, them coming here, creating a fraud, some sort of a fraud scheme and stealing from the government, for them, it's just another Tuesday. Those are not the kind of people that we want here in this country. I'm sorry. If you think that I'm being a bigot or whatever, yeah, they just need to go, okay? That may be part of your culture, but that's not part of our culture. Our culture is a respect for law, a respect for taxpayer money and other people's property and honesty and so on and so forth. So they need to go, okay? They just need to go. They don't need to be here. Well, the one question, if it's not Ilhan Omar, there's one other person who really should be on the chopping block. I don't even care if Ilhan Omar necessarily takes a hit. I mean, she should, but let's be honest, she's removed from that state for the most part. But the one person who absolutely should either fall on the sword himself or get his head chopped off in political speak and never grace public life ever again is none other than Tim Walz. There's a piece in Breitbart News, and came from the Hill, that there's some questions as to whether or not Tim Walz may have ended his political career. So the Hill reported on Saturday that this particular thing may actually get Tim Walz out of not only the governorship, but out of, because, by the way, he is running for governor again. Not only the governorship, but also could get him out of public life altogether. Now, believe me, if that happens, I applaud them. I applaud that, because that is fantastic. That is fantastic to get Tim Walz out of public life. That's sort of like Kamala Harris. I don't want to see Kamala Harris ever again. She failed. She needs to go. She's an utter, complete, stupid moron and needs to move on with her life, never to grace public life ever again. Well, The Hill reported that there was a former Minnesota Democratic state senator and political analyst in the state by the name of Ember Reichgott. That's Reichgott, Jung, Junge, or Junji. I don't know how it's pronounced. But anyway, she said that the governor, I think, has done a very respectable job, a good job in Minnesota for the years that he's been here. But he's clearly vulnerable. And in my view, he is riskier than any other Democratic candidate that might run. She also continued and said that the fraud happened on his watch, which it did, and that Walz can't erase that. That's right. She also said that the governor is taking steps to rectify it, including audits. However, those investigations will probably uncover more. Yeah. Well, on Saturday, the Small Business Administration Secretary Kelly Loeffler posted on X that the SBA was also uncovering fraud and accusing the governor of using his best efforts to obstruct investigations. Really? So he's looking to blockade this? Now, there was another longtime ally of Walz. Yeah, keeps misspelling Walz. Anyway, Tim Walz, that told The Hill that the controversy itself could not only sink his gubernatorial reelection for a third term, but likely a presidential bid as well. I wouldn't want this butthole to be in any presidential candidacy ever again. He had his shot and frickin' took his, jazz hands or whatever it was that he always would run out on the stage with, and he just needs to go away. Again, fade out of public life. You messed up. You had your shot, you messed up, and you need to go away. Period. Well, this unnamed ally of Walz says the challenges are that Minnesota has a very low tolerance for fraud, waste, and abuse. Really? Does it? Doesn't sound like it. Sounds like they're the haven for fraud, waste, and abuse, not a very low tolerance for it. But anyway, this same ally continued and said it's a very low threshold, and that's one of the reasons the state has worked so well for so long. No, folks. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked so well for so long. I mean, it worked well for the criminals, absolutely. They loved it because they had $1 billion that they stole, possibly all the way up to $8 billion, as rough estimates are coming out, and blah blah blah. But anyway, yeah. Now, Breitbart News is reporting that nearly 500 employees in Minnesota's state government say that the governor ignored their constant warnings about the massive fraud by Somalis in the state's aid programs. They are also alleging that his allies punished whistleblowers for raising the alarm. Yeah. If this doesn't sink this guy's ship, politically speaking, yeah, we might have a bit of a problem. This guy needs to go, I'm telling you. Yeah. And by the way, his daughter, his daughter's pissed because Trump called him retarded. And apparently people, I don't know if anybody saw this, but Walls was complaining about the fact that people were driving by his house and yelling out the window and calling him retarded. Yeah, whatever. Anyway. Well, let's turn our attention to another presidential possibility, and that is greasy Gavin Newsom. That's right. He's got so much oil in his head, I'm surprised the climate change people actually follow him, because his hair is... his hair could probably run the country for a year on just the petroleum product that... Anyway, there's this great post now by Victor David Hansen. Now, it is an opinion column, and, I try to stay away from opinion columns, but I do see them, and I agree with them sometimes, so I bring them on and I present them to you. So, the New York Post published this Victor David Hansen column that says, "Let's count the reasons dishonest Gavin Newsom shouldn't be president." Let's go ahead and walk through them. He writes, as Governor Gavin Newsom gears up to run for president, what in the world will he run on? Californians know that Newsom will not boast, "I will do for America what I have done to California." Why not? Well, there's California's astronomical gas prices, taxes remaining the highest in the continental United States. Ditto to the state's trifecta of highest electricity rates, costliest home prices, and the fourth highest home insurance costs. California carries the largest debt in the nation, approaching $270 billion, mainly due to unfunded liabilities for state workers' benefits. And the budget deficit for California each year ranges between $15 to $70 billion. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that the state by itself is pretty well damn broke. And they keep having to borrow, which is, once again, prolific spending and deficits explain why the state also has the highest income taxes and state sales tax rates in the nation. And many states are one or the other. California is actually both. See, and this is part of the reason why you want to sit here and talk. This is why Texas keeps saying, "Don't California my Texas." Yeah, most states in the country choose either an income tax or a sales tax, but do not actually implement both. Democrat-run California has both, and it has had it for quite some time. Now, just like everywhere else in the country and at the federal government level. See, this is why I get so frustrated when I hear people sit there and talk about, well, make the rich pay more. Make the rich pay more. No. The rich are already paying plenty. For an example, just 1% of California households actually pay 50% of the state income tax. And you wonder why people are leaving California, especially the rich folks. I mean, let's be completely honest here. This is ridiculous that the top half, and this is true for the federal government too, because of our progressive tax system, The top 1% pay the vast majority, or actually in the case of the federal government, I think it's like the top 5 or top 10%, pay the majority of the federal tax bill. Well, it looks like in California, they also pay the majority of the state income tax. Now, let's be real, people. Is this what you want? And Gavin Newsom isn't even finished. I mean, he's been talking about taxing people for quite so many years. He's, the years that he's been governor, he keeps talking about taxing people more. Oh, the state budget ain't balancing. We need to tax people more. While at the same time, by the way, he recently extended Medi-Cal, which is their Medicaid, state-run Medicaid health insurance. He just extended it to thousands more illegal aliens. So in other words, what's happening here is the state of California is fleecing its people, especially the rich, and you wonder why they're leaving, fleecing all of these people, and they are taking that money and handing it over to people that'll never pay back. That'll never pay it back. Folks, this is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know anybody who's with half a lick of sense would want this guy in charge of the federal government. No. And on top of that, by the way, he did that, but then he begged for a nearly $3 billion Medi-Cal federal bailout. Folks, this is the thing, okay? Again, I'm just going to point this out. Article 1, Section 8. Health care is not a federal government responsibility. There should be no federal bailout. There should be no federal funds going toward any kinds of health care. The ACA should be abolished under constitutional grounds. Now, half, and this is another statistic, half of the state's 41 million residents are on Medi-Cal. 50% of all births are Medi-Cal provided. So half of the births and half of the state's residents are on a subsidy program? A state's and federal government, by the way, subsidized program? Really? Here's some other mosts that California has over the rest of the 50 states. The largest population of illegal aliens, the largest number of homeless people, the largest number of people fleeing the state, the largest number of 11 million, and percentage, 27% of foreign-born residents. They also have the largest number of people living in poverty. They also have the highest food prices in the continental U.S. Their state infrastructure, meaning all of their roads and bridges and electrical and all of this other stuff, is usually rated near the bottom when they get rated. And it ranks among the 5 worst states in per capita violent crime. Why would anybody want somebody who can manage that, who manages that, to become president? California is the 3rd largest in area of the 48 states. It's naturally wealthy. It ranks 7th in the nation in oil reserves. And no other state has more agricultural production or forested land acreage than California. So it's hard to bankrupt California, reportedly. But Newsom's apparently arranged it. Now, keep in mind, under governors Pat Brown, Ronald Reagan, that's right, Ronald Reagan was governor, 2-term governor in the state of California before he was elected as one of the greatest modern-day presidents that we've ever had. George, oh my gosh, I can't even, I'll spell it for you, Deukmejian, and Pete Wilson. California was the best-run state in the country. California once produced more oil than any other state, with the exception of Texas. Its timber industry, California's timber industry, was once the third largest in the nation. Its mining and mineral industries were once among the top 10 producers in the country as well. No state politician over the last 3 decades has been more responsible for California's decline than Newsom. 6 years as a governor, 8 years as a lieutenant governor, 7 years as a mayor of San Francisco, and 7 years as part of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. In those 30 years, California has chosen decline, driving out somewhere between 18 to 20 million affluent and middle class state residents, the largest state exodus in U.S. history. Oh my gosh. And while all of this is happening, by the way, with the open border welcoming an influx of over 10 million illegal aliens, the result so far was the fact that Silicon Valley's $11 trillion in market capitalization created the nation's wealthiest and most left-wing, out-of-touch elite. Where do you think all these Hollywood idiots come from? Where do you think all these Silicon Valley left-wing, Meta, Google, Alphabet, all of this stuff? Seriously? And you honestly believe you want this guy to run for president and actually run the country? I don't think so. Now, of course, all of this, between influxes of illegal aliens, exoduses of people with actual brains, and the wonderful gerrymandering that California has done with, Prop 50 that was illegally done against California's constitution, state constitution, has ensured a single-party state. There are literally 0 Republican statewide office holders. Yeah, none. Democrats control all branches of government, and only 17% of its congressional delegation is Republican. So what, if anything, will Gavin Newsom actually run on? It's not going to be on his high-speed rail project. He's not going to talk about that because that's 17 years and $15 billion later. Not a single foot of track has been actually laid. Certainly not the $500 million exploding solar battery plant that they had to shut down. Certainly not illegally issuing 17,000 commercial truck drivers' licenses to non-resident illegal aliens with little or no English competency and accidents occurring galore. Certainly not which would have been preventable had he just left the frickin' fire people in place, or his, fire chiefs would have left those fire watch folks in place. That whole Pacific Palisades fire. Yeah, and that $2 billion that's now closed, desert solar plant boondoggle. Yeah, all of these things. But, Newsom is going to continue to run on things like the threats against President Donald Trump. Saying things like, we're going to punch this bully in the mouth, and putting out stupid-ass memes. Yep. Pacific Palisades fire. Anyway. Oh, yeah, but all of that stuff, that's going to do wonders, like lower your gas prices, reduce the sky-high taxes. New York and California, the two most bluest areas of this country, with the largest populations, they have the highest taxes in the nation, both of them. Yeah. Newsom's going to sit there and making all kinds of threats to federal officials and, try to slander people and libel people, but that's not going to lower any crime or housing prices in his area. Yeah. So Newsom basically is going to try to pander to the base and out crazy the violence with profanity, extremism, and everything else, but won't run anything on any of his accomplishments. Yeah. And apparently, we're probably going to see him attain potentially even being a part of the leftist lunatic primaries because, yeah, people, for whatever reason, they seem to like that. They seem to like it. They like being lied to. They like being, they don't actually like results. People of today apparently don't like results. They don't really care, it seems. And he can sit there with his legs crossed all funky and everything else and talk about things like, we need to, as a party, we need to be more culturally appropriate or whatever terminology that he used. Yeah, none of that. Nope. Speaking of culturally appropriate, or whatever it was, did you know that climate change is actually gone? I know, this is a big old shift. Big shift. But I'll tell you about that in just a moment. First, I want to tell you about this wonderful elixir that I get up to every single morning. That's that wonderful thing known as coffee. I drink it every morning. I have it out of my 16-ounce cup mug that my young whiskey family got for me for Father's Day. It says father like no other. And it's filled with that wonderful elixir every single morning. And if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit has dropped. There's a limited number of kits available. And in each kit, you're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, smooth medium roast, and you'll be be getting the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus that has no crash. All of these are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you'll also be getting my personal favorite, the Gold Spoon Clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You'll also be getting a frother that is strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And you'll also be receiving a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 Coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Well, spoiler alert, it is. Go to the numbers 1775, the word coffee, all together, all one word. 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Once again, that's 1775coffee.com/ which for those of you that don't know is question mark key on your keyboard, /studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they are gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com /studio and grab your starter kit today. Well, yes, folks, that's right. For those of you that may not know, climate change is over. It's done. It's finished. Al Gore, Greta Thunberg, John Kerry, all of those wonderful climate change activists, yeah. They've decided to pack up and head for the hills for their snake oil salesmen's kind of thing. You want to know why? Because for the first time in a incredibly amount of years, we have had not a single hurricane strike the U.S. this season. See, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, NOAA, last week announced that as of November 30th, it was the official end of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. And it's for the first time in a decade that not a single hurricane actually struck the U.S. Not a single hurricane. Now, he did say that the announcement did say that a tropical storm did cause some damage and casualties in the Carolinas. Distant hurricanes created rough ocean waters, caused some property damage along the East Coast, and neighboring countries experienced direct hits from hurricanes. But there was no major hurricane making landfall in the U.S. Well, there it is. It's fixed. It's fixed. Climate change is over. We fixed it. We didn't have a single hurricane. And why am I sitting here saying that? The reason why I'm saying that is because that makes about as much sense as whenever a mass shooting happens, the first thing that the leftist lunatics do is they blame the gun. So just like with the climate change hoax, when hurricanes come in and hit the U.S., that's the first thing that they say. Oh, that's proof. There it is. It's proof. No, climate change is over. We didn't have a single hurricane this season. A single hurricane. Now, here's the reality. Okay? The Atlantic Basin, according to NOAA, produced 13 named storms, of which 5 of them became hurricanes, including 4 major hurricanes. Now, here's the average. The average season has 14 named storms, 7 that become hurricanes, 3 that get classified as major hurricanes. That's an average season. So we had an average season. We just didn't have any hit the U.S. And, of course, all of the climate change morons are running around. They're quiet as hell. They're not talking about climate change anymore because they have nothing with which to use the fear-mongering to point to. They've got no major catastrophic event to point to and say, see, this is what we've been telling you about. Now, keep in mind, India and China are responsible for about 50% of all the pollution that is being put up into our atmosphere. And like I've been telling you folks, that if India, Russia, and China, especially India and China, are not reined in, there is nothing that the U.S. can actually do to stop the climate change, if it even is being affected, which it's not. But if it was, there'd be nothing that the U.S. alone could do. So, yeah. Anyway. In fact, it's so strange that Greta Thunberg, Bill Gates, they've changed their tunes. For an example, Bill Gates, he changed his tune the minute that Microsoft and his other largest holdings started embracing utility guzzling, environment harming AI data centers. Oh, since AI is like currently holding up our stock market, yeah, he all of a sudden has gone quiet because if he starts talking about climate change, the first thing he's going to get blamed for is those AI data centers, which need massive amounts of electricity, not only to do the computation of the AI, but also to keep the crap cold. Because when a computer computes a whole bunch of stuff, it heats up. See, all of those electrons flowing through the CPU and doing all those calculations, that puts off a byproduct known as heat. That's why data centers are always cold, for those of you that don't know. Anyway, you also have Greta Thunberg. Well, she can't do the whole climate change thing anymore. She can't get on the climate change grift. So what did she shift to? She shifted to jumping onto boat boat I don't know what they're called. I'm thinking convoy, but that's not it. But they're jumping on the ships and trying to get into Gaza and take up the Palestinian mantle. That's what she's been doing. Because, folks, climate change is over. It's done. We've solved it. We're done. Oh, yeah. They've all moved on because those people are basically just grifters. That's all they are. They're just grifters making money off of whatever is the next scare tactic of the left. They've all gone. They're all done. All right, folks. Shifting gears here. So the Supreme Court heard a case today. Had to deal with the Federal Trade Commission firing of, and I'm trying to find her name, Rebecca Slaughter. She was an FTC commissioner earlier this year without invoking any of the reasons that Congress listed that an FTC in the FTC Act as a valid reason for removing commissioners such as her. She then went and sued. Slaughter did. She then went and sued and has won multiple court battles in an attempt to stave off that termination. So today, SCOTUS heard oral arguments. And during those oral arguments, which lasted for more than 2 hours, people came away with the idea that maybe the Supreme Court might actually overturn a 90-year precedent called Humphrey's Executor versus the United States. Now, in that case, the unanimous court said that if agencies exercise quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial power, their officials may receive extra protection from Congress. I got a question. And I want my Whiskey Warrior P1s especially to pop in about this. Oh, and Barb, just really quick, I'm going to answer a quick question. Off topic, but Barb over on Facebook says, what about Alina Habba? Well, she decided to quit because she was told that she was unconstitutionally appointed, so she resigned today. Anyway, back to this SCOTUS case. I can somebody in this wonderful thing known as the Constitution, I don't care whether it's the leather-bound one that I have here or any of these other. Can somebody find for me in the Constitution where it states that Congress shall make things that are quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial? Can somebody tell me that Congress has the power to create agencies that are quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial? It can't. Congress is the legislative branch. The judicial branch is separate. That's known as a separation of powers, folks. This whole idea that we have bureaucracies and bureaucrats who are unelected and unaccountable to anyone, including the president, is against the Constitution. See, the President of the United States, who is the executive branch, okay? There is no, the president with all of his minions below are part of the No, it says the president is the executive branch. The president can execute any of the powers needed to enforce and implement law. That's it. There's none of this. There's none of this crap about, well, we've got bureaucrats in charge. You know where that started to come from? That started to come from, I believe it was President Wilson was the one that thought that you should be an overpowering executive. I mean, this is ridiculous. The fact that the left is even talking about this being, well, you know, this is going to expand Trump's power. No, Trump always had the power. Just like Trump always had immunity for doing presidential acts, for enforcing, doing his presidential duty. It was always there, people. It was always there. His ability to shape and mold the executive is his constitutional power and duty. That is his only duty and power. He is the executive branch. There is nothing else. This isn't an expansion of powers. This is a reaffirmation of powers that he already had. Now, the only unfortunate thing about this is that it appears, based on some of the questioning, that the Supreme Court might be interested in blocking off the Fed from political shifts in the wind. But honestly, I mean, let's just face it, trade and coinage and money, those are both Article 1, Section 8 responsibilities. So the federal government has that control. That being said, why would you not have the president, who is the executive, in charge of enacting laws? Again, the left is under the assumption that we, as a constitutional republic, can put in bureaucracies and have the bureaucracies run everything. That is not constitutional. That should be challenged on those grounds and should be nullified. Congress has been told by SCOTUS many times, you can't just hand off your powers and abilities to the bureaucracies, which is what happened as a part of that whole Chevron doctrine idea. Congress is supposed to write the laws. The president is supposed to enact them and enforce them. That's how our government works. And the judiciary, in the case of SCOTUS in particular, is supposed to check and balance those other two to make sure that the laws that are being written are actually constitutional. Do they agree with the Constitution? So this whole idea that the left seems to have that, the president can't fire anybody. You ever listen to a Democrat congressperson? They go on and they're just like, presidents can't fire, these generals. Oh my gosh, he ripped through the Pentagon and fired all kinds of people. Well, guess what? That's his job. He can't fire federal employees. Why not? That's his job. Congress has no control over the executive branch. None. Outside of impeaching someone for high crimes and misdemeanors, which they can do not only with the judicial, but also with the executive. That's it. That's it. I don't get where these people, well, actually, I do get it. I do understand it. It's because they're stupid and they don't even understand it themselves. They don't understand how the Constitution actually works. So I'm kind of hoping that the Supreme Court will actually say, you know what? Yeah, he can fire these people. In this case, specifically at the Federal Trade Commission. So, yeah. Anyway. And I don't think he should need to cite any legal reason. Yeah. Anyway. He's also been challenged. Don't keep in mind that he's also been challenged not only on that firing, but also the Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, copyright official at the Library of Congress, Shira Perlmutter. Yeah. So this might They keep saying that this is going to rewrite the bounds of presidential power. No, it's not. It's not, folks. It's not. This is just going to bring it back into his constitutional power. It's a bunch of crap. All right, well, as I close, we have Christmas coming up. Christmas will be here soon. And for the case of all you leftist lunatics out there who think that, because Santa Claus is handing out presents, that he's giving people things, free stuff, basically, that means he's a leftist. No, I'm going to put a pin in that for you. I'm going to put a pin in that for you because just like Jesus, okay, who required accountability, that by itself just shows that both Jesus and Santa Claus are conservatives. I mean, think about this. He's making a list. He's checking it twice, finding out who's naughty and nice. That sounds to me like a Jesus thing because Jesus also is like, I know what you sinned and I can absolve you of your sin, which means that you've done things badly, but I'm holding you accountable for that sin when you go to enter into heaven. That is like a major tenet of the conservative movement. But I digress. See, Santa Claus dresses in red. Thank you, Barb. You got right to it. He dresses in red. Maybe that's a little bit of an indication. Now, to be fair, throughout the history of Santa Claus, he has dressed in different colors. But red seems to be where he is centered upon. He dresses in red. So there you go. He's conservative. Another thing. Santa says, Merry Christmas. Yes, he does not recognize Kwanzaa or any of those other holidays. He says Merry Christmas. That's a conservative view. Conservatives are mostly Christian. That's right. Oh, and by the way, a godless leftist won't even say Merry Christmas. Hell, half of them won't even say Happy Holidays because they're like the Grinch. They walk around and all this other stuff. Yeah. He doesn't say Happy Holidays. He doesn't say Merry Xmas. He says either Merry Christmas or Happy Christmas, either way. But he's talking about Christmas. Oh, yeah. Oh, believe it or not, Santa also believes in the merit system. Now, this is tied to the whole personal accountability thing, but, you earn gifts by being good all year long. The more good you do, the more of a gift you're going to get. Santa Claus believes in the merit system. That's what conservatives believe in. We believe in the merit system. Oh, Santa Claus also doesn't live by a double standard. Yeah. He takes everybody, but he holds them accountable for what they do. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I don't know how many people, I know it happened here. I don't know how many people know this, but Santa actually gave the big red suited middle finger to COVID, because Santa Claus showed up to my house during COVID, so he obviously didn't care about the whole thing. And by the way, Santa himself, and this is the last point, Santa himself is not woke because he recognizes the difference between boys and girls. He said good boys and good girls. He never mentions any good non-binary beings. Or no, Jir, Jim, Jiz, Zim, Ziv, Zoo, whatever. Santa Claus. Oh, he knows there are only boys and girls, men and women. He knows who's naughty and who's nice. He holds them accountable. That all sounds to me like he is a conservative. So Santa Claus is conservative. Be proud of all of that for you. All right, folks. That's it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you Search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or in the case of 3 Chevy, give me a thumb sideways across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.